Hello friends and welcome back to my channel TechSage Academy. In this fourth episode of TK Inter series, we are further going to learn about flow of control, iterative statements. In our previous episode, we have learned about selection statements, where selection statements helped us to take decision based upon certain conditions. But today we are going to learn about iterative statements. So let's dive into the topic and learn how to use iterative statements in your program. Iteration. Iteration is the process of executing a set of statements repeatedly a number of times till a given condition is satisfied. For example, generating a table of a given number, you want to generate table of 2. Repeatedly calculating grades of students based upon their marks obtained in their exams. So these are few examples and there can be many more where iteration can be used. It is again one of the most important part of any programming language. These iterative statements are also called looping statements. So in Python, there are two types of iterative statements, for loop and while loop. So let's see them in detail. The first variation of for loop is for range. This range contains certain parameters like initial, end, and step value. For loop starts execution from initial number, the first parameter, and continues till end minus 1 number is reached. It makes use of range function of Python. Now range is an inbuilt function of Python. Syntax of range function is initial value, second parameter end minus 1 value, and the third parameter is step value. Now this initial value, if we are not providing any value for the initial, then by default it is 0. If we are not providing any value for the step, then it is 1. So these two are optional parameters. Initial value and step value are optional parameters. Let's see how this range function works. Let's say we are giving range 1 to 6. That means this range function will generate a series of numbers from 1 to 5. The end value is 6, so it is going to generate a series of numbers from initial value to end minus 1 number. So the end minus 1 number in this case is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is generated. We use this range function in for loop. Let's see how. The syntax of for range loop is for. The loop starts with for keyword. Counter variable. The counter variable in range. Then the syntax of range, initial value, end value minus 1, and step value. This is how for loop is written, followed by a colon. The colon signifies the block, as we have learned in our previous episode, that is conditional or selection statement. So whatever statements are written inside that for block will be executed a number of times, which we have specified in the range function. Let's see how. Here is a for loop for I in range 1 to 6. So the range function will generate a series of numbers from 1 to 5. I is counter variable here. Now this counter variable is initialized on 1. That means it will start its iterations from the initial value, and that is 1 in this case. So the value of I also becomes 1. And when we print this statement, output will be 1. Then in the next pass, I will move to 2. In the second pass, the value of counter variable I becomes 2 and 2 will be printed. Then in the next pass, value of I becomes 3 and 3 will be printed. Then in the next pass, the value of I becomes 4, 4 will be printed, and in the last pass value of I becomes 5, 5 will be printed, and then this loop is going to terminate. Let's see programmatically in Python whether we get this output or not. So I start my program with for keyword for I in range 1 to 6 colon, and then print. I'll print a message value of I and then the value of I, variable I. Now let's save and run this program. And you can see the output value of I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has not executed for the sixth value. So this is how for loop works with range function. Now, what is the role of counter variable here? Counter variable is responsible for keeping track of the count for how many counts the loop has been executed. Now let's see another variation of for range loop where we are going to change the step value. Now let's say I'm writing this loop for I in range 1, that is initial value, 6, that is end value, minus 1 of course. Then step value here I'm going to take 2. What happens when we take step value 2? When I take step value 2, the counter variable I is initialized at 1 because it starts from 1. And after the initialization, the counter variable I will leave 2 step values. Earlier, it was leaving 1 step value. From 1, it was jumping to 2. From 2, it was jumping to 3. From 3, it was jumping to 4. From 4, it was jumping to 5. But now, when the step value is 2, I will jump to I plus 2, that is 3. And the output will be 3. And in the next pass, I will jump to 5. And the output will be 5. So it is leaving a step value of 2 in between. Now at 5, the loop is going to terminate. Again, let's see programmatically. Let's change the step value and see the output. So in this loop, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add step value 2. Let's run and check the output. And here you can see the output is 1, 3, 5. Now, let's say I want to run the loop in reverse order. To run the loop in reverse order, what I'm going to do, I'm going to initialize my counter variable on the larger value. Let's say I want to run it from 5 to 1. So I have initialized my counter variable I on 5. I is initialized at 5. The end value here in this case is 0. So my loop will run from one value before 0, that is still 1. If I come down from 5 to 0, the one value which comes before 0 is 1. So from 5 it will come to 4, from 4 it will come to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. And the step value here that we give is minus 1, so that a decrementation in the counter variable can takes place. From 5, 5 minus 1, 4, 4 minus 1, 3, 3 minus 1, 2, 2 minus 1, 1. So in the next pass, I will jump to 4 and the output will be 4. In the next pass, I will jump to 3 and the output will be 3. In the next pass, the I will jump to 2 and the output will be 2. In the last pass, I will jump to 1. The output will be 1 and then the loop terminates. It will not go to 0 because one value before 0 is 1 and at that end value minus 1, the loop will terminate. Let's see programmatically. So I'm going to change the initial value, end value and step value. So I'll start from 5. Initial value of the counter variable I is 5. It will the end value is 0 and step value is -1. And you can see the numbers are printed in reverse order 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can change or manipulate the step value in this case also. Let's see. I'll give -2. So the counter variable I will be initialized at 5. Then the next value will be -2, 5 minus 2, 3. And then the last value will be 3 minus 2, 1. And the loop will terminate. So let's see the output. 5, 3, 1 is the output in this case. Now, another variation of for loop is when we use for loop in sequences. What are sequence types? Sequence types are list, tuples, strings. These are sequence types. When we use for loop in sequence type, the counter variable becomes an iterator. What is an iterator? Iterator is an object which traverses through each and every element of the sequence and takes up their value. It is not like counter variable, where counter variable always takes the numbers as their counts for keeping track of the count of the loop. For example, when we are using counter variable, we have to use range function, and according to the step value, the value of counter variable is going to change. Whereas when counter variable is used as an iterator in sequence types, it becomes an object and it traverses over each and every element of the sequence type. And in the process, it takes up their values. So let's look at the example. Here I have taken a list variable lst is equal to, within square brackets, as we all know that list is declared within square brackets. And it contains 5 elements, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. How this loop will be written? For I in lst. Now look at the difference. Earlier it was for I in range. And then the parameters of range were given. But here it is written as for I in this list, lst. Print I. So I will traverse over each and every object of lst and will take up their value. The output in this case should be 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Let's look at it. So first of all, I will traverse over 10. The output will be 10. Then it will jump to 20. The output will be 20. Then 30. Output will be 30. Then I will jump over to 40. The output will be 40. And I will jump over to 50 and the output will be 50. So here I is working as an iterator object. That iterator object is traversing over each and every element of the list and taking up their values. That is why when we are printing I, the value that it has taken from the list is getting printed. Let's see it programmatically. I'll declare list variable lst is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 for I in lst. Print element of list I. Let me run this program now. And here is the output 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And not only for list, here the iterator can work with tuples and strings. Let's see how. Now I'm going to take tuple, T-U-P, and a tuple is created with these parentheses. Instead of square brackets, we use parentheses. Rest will remain same. And we'll learn about list, tuples and strings in coming up videos when I'm going to talk about this sequence types. So for I in TUP. Let's run this program. Again, the output is same. Now let's take a string. So I'm going to take S is equal to Python, and for I in S, and let's see the output now. So Python, the counter variable I, which is behaving as an iterator, is taking up the values of the sequence type. This is called iteration, and that is why these statements are also called iterative statements. And since they are repeating, they are doing a task repeatedly, they are also known as looping statement. Okay, let's quickly do a program where we'll display table of a number. In the beginning, when I was discussing iterative statements, I said that these iterative statements can be used in various examples, like if you want to generate a table. So let's quickly create a program of generating table of a number. It will take hardly few seconds. N is equal to int input, enter a number. So here I'm going to enter a number of which I want to generate the table. For I in range, usually tables are displayed from 1 to 10. So we'll use 1, comma. The end value should be 11 because then only it will run from 1 to 10. Step value by default will be 1. Print. Now I want to display the table of n, comma. Here I'm using X just to display that multiplication symbol which you use in tables. I will be used to display the counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is equal to, comma, and then the product of n into I. So let's quickly run this program. Let's say I enter 8. You can see the table of 8 is generated. So you can use any number at runtime to generate its table, and becomes so simple. So friends, in this video, we have understood the working of for loop in Python. This video was stretching a bit longer, so we will be covering while loop in our next video. So keep watching.